Hello, students. This is Dr. Fazan Mirza. In this video, I'll be covering some P4 question from the chapter of classification, conservation, and biodiversity. So let's get on with it. So the first question that I'm discussing with you, it's basically dealing with some ecosystem details. So this question came in October, November 2016, and this is from variant second of paper 4. So what question was this? The question that they gave was that the land area of Italy is composed of forests, grasslands, including agricultural fields, built up of areas, for example, towns and cities, and inland water bodies like lakes and rivers. So a lot of habitats, and you can say different conditions are provided to you. Table 5.1 shows changes in the area covered by these environments over a 15-year period. So this is a 15-year period mentioned to you. We can see that over the years, forests increased. Just compare the quantitative values and numerical values provided. Agriculture fields and towns, you can see they have decreased over time. Inland water bodies, they stayed more or less the same. They stayed, in fact, the same. So the total is provided to you as well. And overall, you can see that the changes in the total are there's no change. So that stayed the same as well. Now the question is they're asking explain why none of the three environments listed in table 5.1 can be referred to as an ecosystem. How is this possible that none of these in the ecosystem? Because an ecosystem is a self-contained functional unit in which different communities of species interact with one another. So they need to interact there and with each other as well as with the environment. So Italy having a defined area itself is having multiple forests, inland water bodies, and towns with fields that cannot be regarded as ecosystem because none of them are self-contained. The increase in the area covered by the forest in Italy has occurred because the farmers have cultivated less of their land or have abandoned their farms altogether. Describe how this change in the land use may affect biodiversity. You should consider the three different levels of biodiversity in your answer. So when you cannot just start babbling in this answer, although it's very easy to answer here, but you have to make sure that you address the three levels of biodiversity. So when more area is available for forest, it will provide more habitats on ecosystem. So yes, one level of biodiversity is actually mentioned here in the answer. The number of species will get more enriched with more species, with multiple food chains and food webs available. The abundance within the species would increase too. This would allow more genetic variation and genetic polymorphism within the species. So we have listed all the three levels of biodiversity. Two large mammals which are native to Italy are the gray wolf and the lynx. This is shown to you in figure 5.1. This is the gray wolf and this is the lynx in figure 5.2. Then some facts relevant to the survival of these large mammals in Italy are listed below. In 1971, there were fewer than 100 wolves in Italy. Lynx were extinct in Italy. They did not exist. Wolves received protected status in Italy, and lynx were successfully reintroduced to Switzerland, which shares border with Italy. In 1973, lynx were successfully reintroduced into Slovenia, which also shares border with Italy. So there are two countries in which this organism, this mammal lynx, was reintroduced, and they both share border with Italy. In 2014, that's like after all these years, the number of wolves in Italy was estimated at 800. So from 100, the wolves got increased to 800, and the number of lynx in Italy was estimated to around 25, something that was extinct actually increased to 25. Suggest what actions may have been necessary at local, national, and global levels. So you need to understand the relevance of the three terms here and how they contribute to successful conservation of biodiversity in Italy for the Italy's large mammals. So in our answer, we have to include the global, local, and national level for this. So actions that would have been taken to attain this must have included a complete ban on hunting of lynx. Okay, we can predict that. Locals would have been asked to monitor population of lynx in their areas. Locals are very helpful in basically following this population level of these organisms wherever they are. The zoos would have contributed at the national level to raise awareness and prevent poaching. At the global level, NGOs such as we have various NGOs such as CITES and WWF, and they have contributed to keep the trade of lynx regulated under proper regulation and laws. So in this question, we actually have addressed all the three. So let's try another question here. Um, Let me take one more example. This question is T-test. I have covered this in another video. So I'll prefer to move on from this question, and I would prefer to take another question here. And this question is dealing with diversity index. This is Feb 2019, variant 42, and this deals with biodiversity and the diversity index. So explain what is meant by biodiversity. We know biodiversity refers to the variation in the ecosystem as well as the habitats. It also deals with the variety of different species as well as their relative abundance. Biodiversity also counts for the genetic variation. Again, we have mentioned all the three levels here. They have given to us the formula of Simpson index of diversity. We know we sum these up and we find the total of this column here and we subtract this from 1 to get the diversity. We display all the results in three decimal places and we compare it in the range of 0 to 1. Closer to 1 means more diverse. So here, these organisms, the species are shown to us, numbers are provided. You divide the small n values. All these values here are small n values. And the total here, 236, is the value of capital N. What you have to do is divide every value by capital N. So how 0.042 was attained? 10 was divided by 236, which is capital N. And the same was done for all these values. 97, again, you will divide by 236 and you get 0.411. We'll add the answer in three decimal places. We square each of these. Again, when you are squaring, you have to give the answer in three decimal places. Then the last thing is you add up all these things together, all these values together, you get the sum of the last column. The sum of the last column is 0.273. You subtract 0.273 from 1, and the answer of diversity index comes out to be 0.727. So this is the answer. Explain what is the value of Simpson index diversity show by the diversity of the pond. The diversity index is fairly large because the value is closer to 1 than to 0. This means that the species diversity of the pond is high. So that's a simplistic calculation. You just need to divide the values accordingly and do not get and you shouldn't get confused with how they actually are being asked. So let's move on. May June 2019, video 42. Let's take another question. This question just basically came for terms and basic definitions, something that's completely A01, assessment objective 1, where they ask you to recall and state. So define the ecosystem. The term ecosystem is relatively self-contained functional area where multiple species live in community. These species interact with one another as well as with the physical factors, the abiotic factors of their environment to allow flow of energy as well as materials. So in an ecosystem, flow of energy occurs and flow of materials occur as well. We mentioned this. Say the term used to describe. So this is pretty much like fill in the blanks. The functional role of the species in ecosystem is its niche, a reproductively isolated group of organisms that can interbreed to produce fertile offspring. That those are species. Physical factors of environment such as temperature, pH, soil. They are abiotic factors. So that pretty much covers this. Let's move on. This is May June 2019, variant 43. This question is for the fill in the blanks. So this completely asks you to recall and just recapture what was technique mark release and recapture the Lincoln's index. So a student estimated the population size of animal species using mark release recapture technique. This can be used for mobile animals only, such as mice. The student caught a sample of mice using humane crabs, not human crabs, humane crabs. The student then marked the mice in the way that did not harm them. For example, the mark did not make them more visible to the potential predators. The student released the marked mice left enough time for them to randomly mix with the population. The student then caught a second sample of mice and noted the number of marked and unmarked mice. The student estimated the population size of multiplying the number of mice in the first sample by the number of in the second sample and then divided by the number of marked in mice in the second sample. So you just need to literally recall this technique word by word and just go on with the answers. So that pretty much covers this particular question. And this one, let's take another question here. I would prefer to go to correlations. Okay, this is May June 2020, variant 43, and this is question number 8. Here they're saying just telling us something can be used to find distribution. If I did not get the time to just write the answer here, but let's just discuss it. So sampling can be used to find a distribution abundance of species in an area. Students sampled a rocky shore from high altitude area to a low altitude area. So this from and to actually are telling you that you are moving from one area which is having a different abiotic factor to an area which is having another set of abiotic factors, and you are moving from and to, which means continuation. So in this area, how can you carry out this sampling? So you will use belt transect to assess distribution abundance of organism. You will just tie this transect, and at these intervals, you will start to just place quadrates of a known size and start to count and record the number of organisms within each of these quadrates. And you will tie parallel quadrates on these, so the values can be replicated on these distances. So the three of these probably can be added. So this will give you a fairly good picture of the abundance and distribution of the organisms in this area. The results of this investigation are shown to you two variables A, B, and C, and two variables by three graphs A, B, and C. Which scatter graphs are showing the relation between the two variables X and Y. So we know that the graph X is showing all the points are actually dispersed all over. So no correlation can be seen here. But in B, we can see a positive correlation, and in C, we can see the negative correlation. So this is what we mentioned B and C. Name a statistical test that you would carry out to find out the strength of relation between two variables. You can mention either of the ones that you have studied in correlation, either the Spearman rank correlation or Pearson's correlation, because from the data they actually are not telling you which type of data was it. Was it normally distributed? Was it not normally distributed? So you can get away with both answers here. Let's take another question. Made October 2020, and this is waiting for you to question number 8. In this question, they have given you a describe a method to use estimated population of mobile animals such as brown rat. Again, Lincoln's index method to catch large numbers on day one, count them, mark them, release them. Mention the formula, precautions, small non-toxic water soluble spot should be there. On day two, you will catch them again. Large numbers should be caught. You count them, and you basically count the unmarked ones on the second day, and then you apply the formula, and then you just get the estimated number. Next, they have given to us the data here. There is a soft rush plant which grows in many habitats across northern Europe. Investigation was carried out on the relationship of the height of these plant and the altitude. And in this, you can see the altitude is shown to you and the height in centimeters is displayed. A total of 8 observations are there, 8 paired observation. Whenever you are given observation this page, this is a paired observation. So the observations are given in pairs. So these are 8 pairs of information: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this means that n is 8. They are asking us to calculate Spearman rank correlation. We know the formula of Spearman rank correlation. They have provided to us summation d square. It's 164. So in the formula, summation d square becomes 164. We multiply the value by 6. We have to divide it by n cube and subtract n. N cube is 8 cube. We subtract 8 from this. We get the answer 984 upon 504 by solving this bracket. Once the bracket is solved, first of all, you need to just compute the values in the bracket. First of all, just mention each value appropriately, and then solve whatever within the bracket, divide them, get the answer, and whatever answer you get here, you subtract it from 1. Make sure that you go mathematically correct, use BODMAS, and you don't fall in the trap of getting a wrong answer using a calculator. So this gives you RS value of minus 0.95, which means it's a negative correlation. We give the answer in two decimal places when we are asked correlations. Use your value of RS to evaluate relationship between the altitude and the mean height of the software plant. We know it's a strong negative correlation. Why strong? Because it's closer to -1. The two variables that are basically, one is increasing, the other is decreasing. So that's what we mentioned here. Let's take another example. So this example here is again simply it's basically about scientific terms. And this question made FF March 2023, and this question came as question 10. Biodiversity within an area can be assessed at different levels, including species diversity, genetic diversity, ecological diversity. Species diversity can be assessed by determining the number of different species and relative abundance of different species in a given area. From this information, species diversity can be estimated using Simpson's index of diversity. Why? Because that's the only way of calculating diversity. Organisms of the same species can show much genetic diversity through though they share the same genes but different alleles. The greater the genetic diversity, the greater the ability of a species to adapt. to changing environment. Ecological diversity is a measure of number of range of different ecosystems and the niche within the given area. So yeah, that's was fill in the blanks, and the fill in the blank questions are kind of tricky because either you know the term or you don't know the term, and this is AO1 assessment objective one. So it's this is either you get the mark or you don't get the mark. So try as much as you can to just relate to what you are studying. So you these terms they fall in the appropriate place when you are doing these blanks. This question is May June 2023, variant 42. This question actually started with like many zoos around the world are involved in captive breeding programs for endangered species, outline the role of zoos in conservation of endangered species other than captive breeding. So what do? Zoos allow endangered species to be kept in safe kept safe from protection, kept safe in protection, away from the predators. These animals can be provided healthcare by the veterinary and care providers, who also play an important role in raising awareness and funds for research. They have shown to us captive breeding program for this black rhinoceros, and this is shown to you here. In captive breeding program, the for eastern black rhinoceros, 15.8% were female were bred with each year, but while in the wild, 23.7% of the females breed each year. So just reason why fewer females breed in captivity in the wild than in the wild. So why females in captivity are not breeding? Well, when animals are kept in captivity, their diurnal rhythms change, and because the hormone levels are altering, so this mostly is an outcome of stress of the animal or the change in the daylight hours available in the zoo as compared to the natural habitat where this was living. This affects the ovulation and the mating behavior. Some females do not breed in captivity because the mates are not of the same social group or behavior. Again, all learned content that you have studied, you just mention it here. This is where the question becomes much interesting. In fact, sometimes assisted reproduction is used in captive breeding programs for the eastern this animal. Outlines the IVF program, hormone treatment, mature oocytes develop. So this is basically done to superovulate the female animal. When you superovulate the female animal ends up producing a lot of eggs. The oocytes are collected and then occurs A, and the embryos are produced, and the embryos are implanted in the original female, which means the biological mother, or B or C. And they're asking you what events are occurring at A, B, or C. So what's occurring at A? In event A, semen collected from the male animal is being mixed with the oocytes of the female because oocytes are collected and embryo is being produced. It won't take much of rocket science to predict what must have gone here because this is oocytes collected, so they must have been fused with the semen which was collected, and this is how you assess reproduction. The embryo can then be transferred to a surrogate mother, biologically unrelated to the embryo, or in B, the embryo can be kept frozen at minus 196 in C and for later use for embryo transfer. So this question pretty much sums up the kind of question that actually I taken from this chapter. I hope this video was helpful for you. I would recommend that you take these questions and start attempting these yourself so you get a good practice of the content that we have just discussed. I hope this video was helpful for you. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.